Good day, class. I'm Dr. Alex, and welcome to Module 1 of Purposive Communication, Foundations of Communication. This lecture is based on the textbook my wife and I have written for this course, Purposive Communication, Modules for Flexible Learning. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you sent a text and the other person completely misunderstood what you meant? Maybe your tone got lost, maybe a joke landed wrong. Honestly, it happens to all of us, even to me, even after years of teaching this course. Here is the truth this module is built on. Communication is not simply sending a message. It is a system, and like any system, it has moving parts, hidden signals, and rules that govern how it works. In the next several minutes, we are going to open up that system together, piece by piece, element by element, so that by the end of this module, you will not just send messages, you will understand what is really happening underneath them. Okay, let's begin. Let's start with an example, and I want you to really picture this. Look at your screen. On the left side, there's a phone, and on it, a very short message. Just 12 bytes, really. A student texts, "Sir, di po ako makaka-attend. Sir, I won't be able to attend." Now, if you are the teacher reading that message, what is your first reaction? Some of us might think, this is just an excuse. Maybe this student is irresponsible. But look at the right side of the slide now. The unseen system load, the part those 12 bytes never showed you. Behind that one short sentence, a grandmother has just passed away. Funeral arrangements are happening at this very moment. A family is drowning in emotion. And sometimes, honestly, there are simply no words left to explain everything that is going on inside a person. This is the first big lesson of this module, class. Communication is never just the message that was sent. It is the sender, the environment they are standing in, the noise around them, and this part is important, the silence between the words. If we only judge people by their 12 bytes, we will almost always get it wrong. A skilled communicator learns to pause and ask, what is the hidden context I might be missing here? Now here's a mistake almost everyone makes when they think about communication, including, I admit myself, back when I was your age. We tend to imagine communication like a game of ping pong. I hit the ball, I speak, then I wait. You hit it back, you respond, then you wait. Back and forth, one at a time. Simple, right? Except, class, that is not actually how communication works. Look at the top diagram. That straight line, that ping pong idea, it's marked with a big red X because it's a myth. Real communication looks more like the bottom diagram, a dance. Two people moving at the same time, constantly adjusting to each other, weaving together like those blue and orange threads you see on screen. Here's the part that surprises most students. Even when one person is completely silent, the system is still active. You are still processing. You are still reading their face, their posture, the pause in their breathing. Silence is not empty. It is data. So from now on, I want you to stop picturing communication as a straight line from one person to another. Start picturing it as continuous, simultaneous synchronization. Two systems adjusting to each other in real time, even in the quiet moments. All right, class, now that we understand communication is a continuous two-way system, let's break it down into its actual working parts. There are 7 elements here, and I want you to know all 7 by heart. First, the sender, the person who starts the signal by encoding, turning a thought into words or actions. Second, the message itself, words plus tone, plus even the silences in between. Third, the channel, the medium the message travels through, like text, voice, or a letter. Fourth, and this one is sneaky, noise, any invisible interference blocking the signal. We'll look at its types shortly. Fifth, the receiver, decoding what they just received. Sixth, feedback, the real-time adjustments both sides make, a nod, a reply, a raised eyebrow. And seventh, context, the entire environment shaping what the message actually means. A joke in a classroom lands differently than the same joke at a funeral, correct? Context, sender, message, channel, noise, receiver, feedback, 7 elements, one system. Miss even one, and communication breaks down somewhere. Now let's zoom into 2 of those elements more closely, encoding and decoding, because this is where most misunderstandings are actually born. Look at the diagram. On the left, there is an idea, a full, complicated idea inside someone's head, represented by all those colorful, tangled connections in the brain. That idea has to pass through a funnel called encoding. And encoding class is stubborn, difficult work. You are taking something complex and rich and squeezing it into a limited set of symbols, words, gestures, actions. A lot gets lost in that squeeze. Then the message travels across, small and simplified, until it reaches the other person's funnel, decoding. And here is the catch: decoding is never neutral. It is filtered through the receiver's tiredness, their mood, their background, everything they have experienced up to that point. So the idea that arrives on the right side of the screen, the assumed meaning, is almost never an exact copy of the original idea on the left. This is why I always tell my students, the message you sent is not always the message they received. Two honest, well meaning people can still misunderstand each other completely, simply because encoding and decoding are never perfect processes. Let's return to that sneaky element, noise. Notice something important here. Noise isn't always loud. The worst kind is often completely silent. There are four types: physical noise, external and obvious, a buzzing phone, loud traffic, a room too hot or too cold; semantic noise, inside the space of meaning itself, complex jargon, unfamiliar vocabulary, a language barrier. If I use a big word you've never heard, class, I have just created noise, even without meaning to. Physiological noise, in the body, hunger, exhaustion, illness, pain. Have you ever tried listening to a lecture on an empty stomach? That hunger is noise. And psychological noise, in the mind, worries, emotional distress, biases, a wandering, distracted mind. Here's the moral of this slide, and I want you to remember it. Most communication failures are not born from bad intentions. They come from invisible static somewhere in the system. Before you assume someone is being rude or careless, pause and check the system for noise first. Now we move to something researchers call models of communication, three different ways information can flow between two people. And I want to be clear about something. These are not competing theories where one is right and the others are wrong. Think of them as three different lenses, three different tools you use depending on the situation. The first is linear, server to user, one direction only. The second is interactive, ping and respond, a back and forth exchange. And the third is transactional, simultaneous sync, the dance we talked about earlier, where both sides are sending and receiving at the exact same time. Part of becoming a skilled communicator, class, is simply noticing which model you are currently using. Are you broadcasting one way to an audience? Are you taking turns in a conversation? Or are you fully, simultaneously engaged with another person, adjusting in real time? Let's look at each of these more closely. Let's look first at linear routing. Picture a radio tower, broadcasting outward in every direction. This is a one-way street. The sender sends, the receiver receives, and there is no immediate feedback loop. Think of a radio advisory during a typhoon, the evening TV news, or a homily during Mass. You are receiving the message, but you cannot talk back in real time. Now compare that to interactive routing, a two-way ping. This is where feedback enters the picture, along with something researchers call fields of experience. Notice on the diagram how the two circles overlap in the middle. That overlap represents the shared cultural and educational background between two people. And here's the key insight. The more those fields of experience overlap, the easier it is to understand each other. Emails and text messaging are good examples. You send, you wait, they reply, and slowly, meaning gets built between you, relying heavily on how much common ground you actually share. Now, the third model, transactional and honestly class, this is the one that describes most of your real face-to-face conversations. Look at this image. See all those arrows flying back and forth at the same time. Spoken argument, nodding reaction, furrowed brow, nonverbal cue, instant feedback. None of that is sequential. It is all happening at once. Here is the core idea I want you to hold on to. Communication is not polite turn-taking. It is simultaneous. Both people are acting as sender and receiver at the exact same moment. Meaning is not delivered like a package. It is built together dynamically on the fly between two people. Here's a very human example. Have you ever been in the middle of explaining something, arguing a point, and then mid sentence you suddenly change your wording? Why? Because you caught a flash of confusion on the other person's face and your brain adjusted instantly without you even fully deciding to? That, class, is the transactional model in action. It is fast, it is alive, and it is happening to you constantly, whether you notice it or not. Let's pause here and put all three models side by side because I think a table like this makes everything click into place. Look at flow direction. Linear is strictly one way. Interactive is two-way, but sequential, you take turns. Transactional is simultaneous and multi-directional, everything at once. Now look at the role of feedback. In linear, feedback is either absent or delayed. In interactive, feedback is central to the whole loop. In transactional, feedback is constant and immediate. Next, sender and receiver status. In linear, the roles are fixed. One person always sends, the other always receives. In interactive, the roles alternate. But in transactional, both roles happen simultaneously. And finally, when is each model best used? Linear works for mass alerts and public speaking. Interactive works for digital chats and slower collaborations. Transactional is what you need for complex relationships and real debates. So the next time you're in a conversation that isn't working, class, ask yourself, which model am I actually using right now? And is it the right one for this situation? Now let's zoom out and talk about 6 fundamental principles, the underlying rules governing every act of communication you will ever have, whether you realize it or not. 1. It is a process. Nothing lives in isolation. Today's greeting can shape tomorrow's favor. 2. It is inevitable. You cannot not communicate. Even silence is data. 3. It is irreversible. Once a message enters the network, you cannot take it back. We'll return to this shortly. 4. It is purposeful. Every signal carries intent to inform, to persuade, sometimes to hurt, sometimes to heal. 5. It is contextual. The environment shapes the final meaning of whatever you say. And 6. The one I consider most important, it is ethical. Every exchange of information carries real, profound moral weight. You are never just moving data. You are affecting another human being. 6 rules. Process, inevitable, irreversible, purposeful, contextual, ethical. Let's slow down on the 2 that carry the highest stakes. Look at the left photo first. A student, alone in a classroom, arms crossed, looking down. Nobody said a single word. But is this person communicating? Absolutely. This is rule 2, inevitable, inaction. Silence, crossed arms, withdrawal. These transmit data just as loudly as a shout across the room. You cannot switch off communication simply by staying quiet. Now look at the right side. A phone, an angry message being typed. Notice even the crossed out part is still there, and above it, a notification, screenshot saved. This is rule 3, irreversible, and honestly, class, this might be the single most important lesson for your generation. In a digital world of screenshots, even the words you tried to edit or take back get captured permanently. Once a message enters the network, it cannot be fully undone. So, and I say this to my own children too, think before you hit send. Here's something to sit with, class. Technical skill without ethics is dangerous. You could become the most articulate speaker in this room and still cause real harm without something deeper anchoring you. So, 5 ethical anchors, 5 things separating a merely skilled communicator from a truly good one. Be honest, never omit facts just to tilt a story in your favor. Be responsible, verify your sources. Your digital identity is always at stake. Be respectful, protect people's dignity. Never mock someone's accent or grammar, especially someone still learning, like some of you learning academic English right now. Be fair, make room for the quiet ones, the silent voices who deserve a place too, and be accountable, own your errors. If you shared fake news, delete it and apologize publicly. That takes humility, but it's the mark of real character. Honest, responsible, respectful, fair, accountable. 5 anchors. Hold on to them. Let me give you one practical tool before we close, something I personally practice myself, honestly, even now. On your screen, You can see a blurred glimpse of what an angry, heated text exchange often looks like. Words most of us regret the moment they're sent. Here is the rule. When you are angry, hurt, or stinging from an interaction, go ahead and draft your reply. Let it all out on the page if you need to, but do not send it yet. Give yourself a mandatory 24-hour system delay. Set it aside and read it again in daylight when your emotions have settled. Why does this work? Because a built-in buffer like this prevents permanent damage from what is often just a temporary emotion. And I promise you this, from experience, the world is always quieter, always a little bit better, for every angry message that never got sent. Practice this, class. It will save you friendships, relationships, maybe even your reputation. So, let's do a quick system diagnostic before we close this module. By now, you should be able to check off 4 things. 1. You can map the 7 elements of the communication cycle: context, sender, message, channel, noise, receiver, and feedback. 2. You can diagnose the flow of any conversation using the linear, interactive, or transactional models. 3. You recognize the 6 underlying principles quietly governing your daily interactions, whether you're aware of them or not. And 4. You understand how to apply the 5 ethical anchors, both in your digital life and your physical one. Here's how I want to leave you today, class. Understanding the network, all these elements, models, principles, that is only the first step. It's the easy part, honestly. The real goal, the harder and more meaningful goal, is mastering the connection. Because at the end of the day, communication was never really about the elements. It was always about the people on both ends of the line. See you in our next module.